Okay, there we go. Why everything is so bad? Why is it so shit? Can it just work? Also, you know what? I hate all this security shit. Oh, authenticator app. Oh, fucking look in the camera. Show me the picture of your asshole. Let me count the rings, bro. Like, I don't care. Nobody knows my fucking degenerate password, okay? Nobody's trying to break into this piece of shit, all right? I don't care. Somebody steals my account, I don't give a fuck. Fuck. Oh my god, I even have an authenticator on fucking Twitch app, bro. Kill me. Kill me, like, strike me down right now. Fuck. I can't handle this. I can't handle this. It just so many steps. Isn't the future of technology supposed to be easy? How about people hire QA? How about that? Pretty cool thing. Because they deal with that shit. Not me. Bro, my Google Home app literally doesn't work. You enter, you try to open automations, it's blank. I uninstall the app, I cannot even install it anymore. Fucking shit song. What does this mean even? What am I reading right now? "41 K4 soldiers." K4? It's not A4, it's like 4, a word. It's not a number. Including 11 Italians were injured in the serious clashes between NATO and Serbian demonstrators. They were injured. Who cares? Not killed. Sleeper news. Nobody cares. Just bomb Serbia again. Nobody cares about that either. God damn. I wanna fucking hit something. I need to buy like a fucking... like a boxer. What is it called? Why are you posting that? Who? What? Who posted that? Bro, you have 94 messages. Do you really think that Schizo posting right now is a good idea when I'm fucking fuming? What's up? Yeah, I need a punching bag. All right. Dude, also, these degenerate Telegram groups, I swear to God, they post normal stuff, and then they post some fucking piece of shit that is just, like, I am losing my mind. I'll give you an example. Give me a second. It was somewhere here. Paid fucking articles. So degenerate. Parliamentarians made a scandalous amendment to the law on advertising, which provides a ban on displaying tobacco products in shop windows. It's not scandalous. It's based. Okay? Shoot everyone who fucking smokes in the head, alright? Let's go further. Now that may be scandalous. Jesus fucking Christ. Nobody cares. Paid article, you fucking loser cock. Go fuck yourself. Jesus Christ, dude. Remove tobacco products in shop windows. Good. Smoking kills. Scandalous, bro. I fucking... It's okay if Russia smokes. It's fine, they don't have to smoke. We'll kill them anyway. Alright? We'll do it faster than cigarettes. Look, these degenerates even post this shit themselves. They post this.
Второе пятиэтажное здание было очень сложно взять.
It says Bakhmut. How would this be Kiev? Are you insane? How could anyone think it's Kiev? Also, you misspelled it. First of all, cities are written with a big letter in front, okay? And it's Kiev with a Y, not I. Also, fuck you. What is this? Putin signs law allowing elections, forced deportations, Russia-occupied territories of Ukraine. Doesn't matter. Gonna kill him anyway. Gonna kill him soon. That cuck is gonna die. I don't care about notifications. Ukraine is spelled with a big letter. Also, there's no "the" before Ukraine. Watch yourself. I'm in a bad mood today. Did too much shit fucking triggered the fuck out of me today, man. So you watch out, you better watch out. Oh, look at why YouTube wants to trigger me too. Look at this degenerate. This is a bald and bankrupt degenerate fucking loser friend. 27,000 views. Get fucked, dude. No view, Andy. Nobody fucker. Fuck you. In Kiev. Oh, I'm trying to clickbait with Ukraine, cause guys, there's war in there. And here I'm gonna fucking show my disgusting fat face on the fucking screen. And we're just gonna go all over the fucking town and try to be talking to women and be cringe as fuck. And fuck you. Сдохне. Another Ukrainian racist. I literally fucking deep throat fucked your degenerate whore mother, you fucking loser, okay? And your daddy fucking licked my cum out of my balls. Go fucking fuck your sister. All right. What is this?
I'm trying to catch a fish.
With your hands?
No, with this net.
That's not going to work. You need a fishing rod.
A fishing rod. But
Infinite
where am I
content,
going to
guys.
find one of those? Where? So fun.
Don't worry, I won. Oh.
A few moments later.
I've been thinking about it. Patrick,
About what?
escaping from Tarkov.
What again? We've been over this a million times, SpongeBob. It's too dangerous.
I know. But what if we could
How's
find
it
a
so
way?
quick,
We're not
generating
getting out
it?
of here any other way.
Well, I don't know.
Please, Patrick, we have to try.
All right. But we have to be careful. We don't want to end up like Gary.
Yeah, it is live.
A few moments later.
Who? Patrick, what are you looking
It
at?
like resets after some
Bang,
time.
bang.
What?
Yeah, I saw it on the internet. Some people were filming her while she was in the shower and they all came in and did her at the same time.
That's just disgusting.
A few moments later.
Patrick, what do you know about communism?
Not much, but
They... I can't handle it. What is happening today? All right. Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russian Federation put U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham on the wanted list. Graham replied today to this news, but we'll read it later. So this last night, 67 air targets were destroyed. 37 cruise missiles, 29 shock drones? No. Basically 29 Shahed drones and 1 reconnaissance UAV. But today was a different attack on Kiev for the first time with ballistic... Not for the first time, but we destroyed ballistic missiles for the first time. The missiles were flying along a ballistic trajectory. According to the Speaker of the Air Force, Yuri Ignat, the invaders could attack Kiev with Iskander since the missiles flew along a ballistic trajectory. According to him, the Russian Federation attacked from the north. Preliminary, these were Iskanders. They are of various modifications. There's M, which is a ballistic missile, and there's K, which is a cruise missile. Type of weapons was used, we'll give details later, but he confirmed that both types were used, and we destroyed both types of missiles. And here's, for example, a piece of one missile. Just a piece of missile fucking casual lying on the ground. Crazy. there was another video of missile landing on a car in traffic. It was destroyed in the air, so it didn't explode. Damn, bro. Oh, I almost landed. My bad. Dude, I found this cool-ass guy online. He's a historian, and he talks to Russians on... he's a Ukrainian historian, and he talks to Russians on, like, chat, like, Omegle or whatever the fuck. Dude, there was so much cool info that he was giving. It was really interesting to listen to him. Some Ruski was arguing, like, why Ukrainians worship Bandera. Yes, you know him? Yeah, it is him. Super based dude. Well, it's in Ukrainian. Well, I mean, it's in Russian, actually, because he speaks to Russians. Because they don't know Ukrainian. You know, oh, it's this guy. Super cool dude. Argues with Russians, and it's so interesting. He's like, well, I think it is surprising how well he knows history, even though he's a historian. Not all, I feel like people have various degrees of knowledge about history. The motherfucker knows his shit, dude. And he's such a good debater, too. He just, like, fucking sticks to the point, and he never let go. Fucking whatever. Like, for example, somebody asked him about Bandera. And we read about Bandera, but he expanded the knowledge. Super far, super by a lot, actually. So he said that, oh man, I hope I'm fucking quoting him correctly. Basically, Bandera was a leader of a national Ukrainian party. We read that, I remember. And he indeed made contact with German reconnaissance. The interesting thing he said is that technically German military and German reconnaissance were not what's the word? They were not judged by the criminal court because they were like following orders, but the Nazis were judged. So it's like there's kind of a separation there, right? Because not just because you were in German army doesn't necessarily mean you're like part of Wehrmacht and all that shit. Or wait, what is it? Not Wehrmacht, SS or whatever. Third Reich, right? Wehrmacht is the army, right? And a lot of them were actually like, yeah, you weren't part of the Gestapo and SS. Nazis had specific units that were designed and created to kill civilians. And Wehrmacht, a German military, was not doing that. And specifically, officers and commanders were against doing that. They wouldn't do it themselves, basically. They were... I would assume there's a difference between against and they didn't want to do it themselves. They're not translated. Let's limit AI discussions for today, okay? I'm kind of all over the place, but I've seen that. You tested auto-translation worked quite well. Maybe, I don't know. I just randomly found him on TikTok yesterday and I started watching his YouTube and shit. Fucking fantastic, bro. Just the amount of history that we have here is insane. I've never was really interested in history, but I feel like a world would be a better place if all people knew history. But man, it just you think he reads a lot of books? Fuck yeah, of course. I mean, it's memorization, right? What's the subject today? I'll talk about the historian that I found super cool. Well-written history books are the shit. There's a big conversation about the responsibility of Wehrmacht in Germany in the past. Well, I'm not saying they're not responsible. What I'm saying is they were not judged in the criminal court when Nazis were. So, whatever. The funny thing is, here's a good argument that he said. When people mention Bandera, they really want to blame him and brand him as Nazi, even though he specifically had relations with German reconnaissance. Hitler and co. didn't want to do anything with Slavs because they thought that they were also not good. However, Stalin worked with Hitler for 2 years. Directly. So Russians are not Nazis, but Bandera is, somehow. He was in prison, that's true, but I don't think it was during the war. From the conversations that I remember, it was before the beginning of the war. He was in prison. They gave them like a lot of years, and then when the war started, nobody was there to like keep an eye on them. They just ran away or some shit. NVIDIA announced some advancement in data center architectures. Yeah, I read it, like I said. Anyway, it's very interesting. It's very interesting how it's not even like he wasn't even a Nazi. So, kind of shifting my position here because I was like, not the best idea to like talk about Bandera in good light or whatever. Not best optical idea. But now that I learn a little bit more about it, then I should read upon it honestly. But man, I don't know. It's fucking boring as shit. It's fun when some guy is telling you, like, when he weaves in like a story and stuff like that. That's fun. But when it's like just dry fucking text about things that happened. Oh, and his manner to argue is beautiful. He's just like these fucking degen Russians like start a discussion and they try to like catch him on some technicality. Like what was it? Oh, some guy was like, well, Taras Shevchenko, one of the greatest poets in Ukraine, actually didn't mention Ukraine and Ukrainians in any of his works. And he's like, yeah, he didn't. That's okay. That's right. Other people at the time who were also writing stuff, poetry and books did mention Ukraine and Ukrainians in it. So what's your point? If Shevchenko didn't mention it, it means Ukraine doesn't exist or some shit like that. It's so cringe. Or like when people were asking when not people, I'm sorry. When orcs were asking like when did the Ukrainian flag appeared? Can't post links again. I'm sorry, I can't change that at currently. Kick is degenerate, okay? Bandera was in German jail prison from July. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. He was saying that not when the war started, but when the war ended, Nazis just ran away. Nobody gave a fuck about prisoners, you know, in prison, so they were able to escape or some shit like that. I remember there wasn't anyone in the prison to keep an eye on them, and I don't remember is it because of the start or because of the end of the war. So also it's very interesting how Russians are like, who won in World War II? And he's like, well, it's the coalition, anti-Hitler coalition. And they're like, wrong! It's USSR. Okay? USSR started fighting them first. USSR started fighting Nazis first. And only then, all the other people started fighting. And he's like, the fuck are you talking about? That is absolutely not true. They're like, it's true. Stalin said it's the second front has opened. He's like, Stalin said, but like, it doesn't matter what he said. That's his fucking opinion. From his perspective, yeah, for propaganda reasons. But it's like, there's been so many different fronts. And it's funny how like he knows what they're gonna say, but he always says like, what do you mean? And they struggle to explain it. So fucking funny. They're like, what about the second front? And he's like, what do you mean by second front? He's like, well, you know what I mean. He's like, there's been like fucking 10 fronts in World War II. It's literally fucking called World War. Okay? The whole war, the whole world was at war. There was a lot of different fronts. Which front do you mean? It's the second one. It's the USSR fighting. It was the first front. And he's like, that's not true. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like their whole worldview is just fucking funny. But, and educational, you know? Yeah, and he's like super calm and shit. And it's like... He's also very, very specific about the words, which is like, I guess makes sense for a historian. But, dude, every time a video starts, he's like, because this is like Omegle, and he like sees an orc, and he says hello. The orc says hello, and he's like, which subjects do you discuss here? And he's like, and orcs always say, various. And it's like you already see that the life is drained of this historian guy. He knows it's gonna be some degen, and he's like, I mean, give me an example, 1, 2. I'm talking about this guy. Has a YouTube channel. He's a pretty entertaining Ukrainian historian guy who lives near Kyiv, and he talks to orcs, but there's no translation. So I don't know, maybe I just gonna be so difficult to translate. I don't even know if I want to do that, but also those videos are like 30-40 minutes long. There could be like cool educational, fuck, maybe I should, I don't know. No, there's no translation. There is translation on some? Maybe on like popular ones. Not really. But it's a lot of them. Like, I've been on like a big train with the content here. Like, it's not loading. What the fuck is happening here, bro? Why? What is happening with my shit? Everything is broken. The fuck is going on? Please. I read a cool post today about a guy who quoted his own tweet and broke the whole fucking Twitter in 2020 or something like that. He made a recursive tweet, which was funny. But huh. Anyway, pretty cool guy, pretty cool dude. You know. All right, let's go back to news. Maybe we'll play like a vid or something. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Budanov. I'm sure he says some based fucking shit. Let's go.
Доброго дня.
Good day.
Чергова спроба
Yet
терористичних
another
дій
attempt from
Російської Федерації
Russia
черговий раз зазнала
to do
поразки. Всі ті,
Terrorism
хто в Російській
failed yet again.
Федерації до сих пір вірили, вірять і, можливо, мріють про те, що
Everyone-
зможуть запалати Україну,
Everyone who still believes, wants to believe, or whatever, that they can threaten Ukraine and get them scared,
я хочу вас
I want
трошки
to,
засмутити. Це не так.
upset you. It's
Всі
not the
як
case.
знаходились, так і знаходяться на своїх робочих місцях.
Everyone
і
is working.
продовжують
Everyone is
виконувати свою
continuing to
роботу.
do their job.
Ну а всі ті, хто
And everyone
намагався нас залякати,
Who tried to scare us,
мріючи, що це принесе
dreaming
якийсь
that
ефект,
it would
ви
have an
дуже
effect,
скоро про
you
це
will
пошкодуєте.
you will regret it very,
Наша
very
відповідь
soon.
не
Our
забудеться.
answer is not gonna
Чекайте,
be
скоро всі все
long.
побачать.
Everyone is gonna see everything soon. Thank you. Oh, yeah? Interesting. What will we see? When? You can. I said I thought I would say you can vote, but you can't anymore. All right. Russian public appears to be soaring on war casualties. Analysis shows souring. Jesus. Happy Ukraine Day, is it really? Support for the war in Ukraine remains high, but could potentially turn if concern over a high numbers of casualties persist, according to Filter Labs AI. Excuse me, what? This is... They posted fucking ChatGPT opinion on New York Times? Am I tripping? Do you think Ukraine will blow up Crimea Bridge soon? Ukraine will blow up Crimea Bridge when it's going to have maximum effect. Perhaps it's going to happen sooner than later, but it's definitely going to happen not later when we're going to be stationing our troops to enter Crimea. So it's hard to say. I don't know, you know? It might be, it might not be. Nobody can tell you when it's gonna happen. Budanov maybe, but I don't think he will. Public sentiment in Russia over war casualties has been turning more negative during the intense fighting in recent months in eastern Ukraine, according to new analysis. US officials have highlighted the huge numbers of Russian troops killed and wounded in Bakhmut, Ukraine in recent months, which they estimate to be more than 100,000. The city has become a scene for the most intense urban combat in Europe since World War II. You know what's interesting thing that that historian also said is that every time a world war was started, it was started from a conflict in Europe. Started in Europe, basically. Another thing he said that after victory, we need to create a buffer zone with Russia, and do everything we can so that that country is gonna fall apart in smaller countries, and also take away their nukes. Bridge is a supply line. It has nothing to do with the moral effect. I mean morale. But first and foremost, it's supplies of troops. It's like in Kherson. These losses appear to be affecting public opinion. Filter Labs AI, which uses messages on Telegram app, posts on social media, and discussions on internet forums to track Russian public sentiment on a range of topics, has found that views on war casualties have become increasingly negative since late February. Why it matters. At the beginning of the war, some US officials predicted that public support for Putin would erode as the war went on, and economic sanctions bit more deeply, potentially pressuring him to end the conflict, but that has not happened yet. Support for the war remains strong in Russia. It began to dip slightly in early March, only to rebound around the country's May 9 Victory Day celebrations, according to Filter Labs analysis. Still, US officials say that while Russian public opinion has been difficult to accurately track, they too believe cracks in support have begun to show in recent months. Polls in Russia or any other authoritarian country have an imprecise measure of opinion because responders will often tell pollsters what they think the government wants to hear. Pollsters often ask questions indirectly or try to elicit more honest responses. They remain difficult to accurately gauge. Jesus streamed for your sins, guys. Filter Labs tries to address the shortcoming by constantly gathering data from small local internet forums, social media companies, and messaging apps to determine public sentiment. It also looks for platforms where Russians may feel freer to voice honest opinions, said Jonathan Tubner, the chief executive of Filter Labs. Filter Labs has worked with Ukrainian groups to try to measure their ability to influence Russian opinion. The company's work is most useful in measuring the direction of sentiment rather than a snapshot. As with any attempt to measure public opinion, sentiment analysis is imperfect. It includes various sources of potential bias and represents just one organization's analysis. Oh. Man, that's a cool idea, huh? Use AI to scan through millions of messages and form like a consensus and opinion. Concern over high casualties earlier in the war eroded support for Putin, prompting propaganda pushes by the Kremlin. But that loss of support was only for a short time, and the public rallied once more behind the government, according to the Filter Labs. The situation looks a little different now. Kremlin-aligned news outlets appear to be trying to counteract growing concern, publishing articles that are more sanguine about the number of Russian casualties. But the state-controlled news media seem to be having limited effect on opinion so far. So far, it's stabilized as far as I'm aware. US officials warned that while Russians appear to be aware of the high number of casualties, so far the knowledge has not led to less support of the war. Yeah, of course, because they all fucking degenerate orcs. They don't care if they live or die, okay? Life in Russia is worse than any type of death. Hey, that's what they think, okay? I mean, we've seen some videos from Russia. We know the way it fucking looks. Not surprising. All right. What next? Oh, this is crazy. So far, 16 American volunteers died in the war, says Washington Post. Man, real fucking cool ass dudes, dude. They either really believe in democracy, they either want to protect the weak, or they just want to kill Russians. Whatever the fucking motivation they had, all of those are good reasons, you know? That's sad. Danish government and Danish people increased the financing of Ukraine fund by $2.6 billion. Major contribution will further strengthen the combat capabilities of armed forces of Ukraine, short and medium term. Short and medium, not long. Because we ain't doing it for too long anymore, okay? We're finishing this shit. Oh, this was interesting, by the way. The observers from OSCE refused to call elections in Turkey fair and free. Uh-oh. By the way, did you know that in 2014, OSCE observers had a report that they saw Russian military equipment on the territory of Ukraine, and it was specifically equipment that only Russians had. They never exported the equipment that they saw. And since Russians are part of the OSCE, or at least, I don't know if they are still, they even signed it. Their fucking guys put a signature under that too. So when somebody tells you that Russians weren't in the Russian military, didn't have presence in Ukraine in 2014, you can just point to that fact. Nobody cares? I mean, what do you mean nobody cares? Literally everyone cares. Russians don't care. But when you bring their attention that they signed, you put a signature there? Sorry for yawning. I don't know. My brain fucking shuts off when I look at this fucking light. Zzz, fucking burn my retinas. Again. I think it's funny. You know? Mosquito light, yeah. Alright. The effectiveness of Ukrainian air defense during Russian massive terrorist attacks. Bro, look at this. So the red is the amount of missiles launched. The blue is the amount of missiles destroyed. Look at the dynamics of that. First, Russians started using less missiles, but I think, what is this, 16th? I don't know what this was. It's 93%. Wow, we can go to 120%? That's insane. When Russians launch 100 missiles, we shoot down 100 and send 20 missiles towards them. That's what it means. Russia and Belarus are still in the OSCE, are blocking Estonia becoming a chair. There was an interesting discussion that this historian also had about the United Nations, where Ukraine, by the way, was one of the founding members of United Nations. But basically, they never expected that the members of United Nations, especially the founding members, would attack other members of United Nations, and they never had a clause in their laws that you would be expelled for that. So nobody could ever fathom such a thing. So that's why Russia is still part of the Security Council and blocks all the decisions. Fucking kind of cringe. Whoever was a business analyst on that document done fucked up, okay? Oh, beautiful HIMARS pictures. Didn't think about all the possibilities. They should set a precedent. That's good shit. Looks great. Every one of those missiles killed a Russian. Remember that. Vlad has a good take on it. If UN had power, it wouldn't exist. I mean, UN basically exists as a platform for other countries to tell what they think. But it's like saying something on stream. When you said it, you can't take it back, right? Because then your word means nothing. So.
Позорным сегодня быть в Донбассе гражданином Украины. Я гражданин буду России. Я получил паспорт и гражданин.
Give me a second, I want to show you this fucking video. Dude. Okay, this guy, I'll translate.
Позорным сегодня быть в Донбассе.
I'm glad to be here today in Donbass.
Гражданином Украины. Я гражданин.
He says, it's shameful to be here in Donbass as a Ukrainian citizen.
Буду России.
I will be a Russian citizen.
Я получил паспорт и гражданин.
I received Russian passport and citizenship.
Я сильно страдаю, что я
And now I'm suffering
оказался без пенсии.
that I am without pension.
Здесь мне не платят, так
Nobody
как я
gives me money
сдал
because I gave up my Ukrainian passport.
Я отказался от украинского гражданства.
Same guy, dude.
Я получил паспорт и
The fucking
гражданство Российской
dude, the shift in the tone of voice. Can you just listen to this? No need for translation. It kind of speaks for itself.
гражданином Украины. Я гражданин буду России. Я получил паспорт и гражданство Российской Федерации. Я сильно страдаю, что я...
Is that his dead son or some shit? Fuck you, Degen. God damn, bruh. Ooh, literally dig your own grave, bruh. You want a link for this? Alright, there you go, bud. Alright, just TikTok starts to feed me this shit because I'm like fucking sending it to my friends. Alright, Lindsey Graham said, I will wear the arrest warrant issued by Putin's corrupt and immoral government as a badge of honor. Good. Wait, what? Whoa! We have approved the terms of the movement of our troops. The decisions have been made. I thank the brigades that prepared for this, says Zelensky. Just now, 10 minutes ago. There is. It's done. The date is in stone, set in stone now. Wait, they never said what the date is. They just said that they agreed on a date. They didn't say it's gonna start now. It just basically says that we all agreed on the date when that's gonna happen. Damn, son. Why would they announce it? What, do you think Russians are not gonna know? Hey, Mr. General, all of a sudden all of our fucking guys are dying there. That's weird. Why all of a sudden? Did Ukrainians said that they launched a counteroffensive? No, they didn't make an announcement. Okay, then I don't know what that is. Probably a meteor? Russian anxiety? Bro, you wait, dude. I feel like it's gonna start soon. This is pretty big. Just you wait for fucking Telegram groups to start spreading the news. This is gonna be fucking big as fuck. I should tweet about it, right? Why wait? I should tweet about it. I should break the news. Do I need to put some... Oh yeah, I tweeted. Damn. Breaking the news like that. You did it, you? I did it now. Tweeted it on my Top Sen account. I don't even know if I actually did. But whatever. I never... I tweeted at least, I think, like once or twice. I don't even know how that works. Did I tweet it? Where can I find my tweets? Just on my... I don't see it. Oh, you see it? Okay. Alright. Alright, thank you. Because I'm booming, guys. I'm booming super hard today. That's big. Oh my god, that's big. Can't wait. It means that it's gonna happen fairly close. No way they would announce this and the counteroffensive wouldn't happen soon. Because if the date is known, it's gonna leak sooner or later. Maybe it's a fake out. Who fucking knows, man? It must be really soon. Damn, was I right on my prediction? In a week? I mean, the end of the fucking month is in 2 days. I reported the tweet for not safe for work content. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. From June 1st, Poland will ban movement of trucks from Russia and Belarus across its border. They still allow it? Gonna drop the same day as Carter strike? Nah. Did they close the border a year ago? Yeah, I don't know. It's probably transit, so they like don't buy something from Russia or Belarus directly, but they allow transit to like fucking Hungary or some shit. I don't know. Prigozhin posted another video about his like gay fantasies. Let's hear it.
Идет кровавый
Идет кровавый
военный переворот.
He says a bloody coup is happening. Military coup is happening.
Вряд ли ждет Кашемировая революция.
It's probably not going to be a Kashmir revolution.
Но может ждать вазелиновая коррекция.
But it could be a Vaseline correction. I don't know about you guys in the West, but in the East, people say Vaseline like, you know, to put shit in your ass or something.
Это я отсылаю к расслабленным булкам.
This is I'm referencing relaxed bottoms
о которых мы все время говорим.
that we're talking about all the time. I don't know, it's always about asses with this guy. He looks like somebody who eats ass. Right? Prigozhin looks like somebody who's into scat. Right? He looks like a guy who would film himself sitting on a glass jar He looks like somebody who would die from a horse fucking him till death. Right? Oh, did you know that that guy apparently was NASA engineer? Do I remember that correctly? The Mr. Hands guy was a NASA engineer or something like that. Was that true? Is you know what I'm talking about? You were watching Zolkin video? Did you know that Zolkin was in prison? Yeah. Apparently Mr. Hands, they found him. They found his identity after he died, and he was a NASA engineer. Yeah. I know who Zolkin is. The G7 countries are working covertly on securing guarantees for Ukraine in the event of an end to the war. Among the options for guarantees are negotiations on joining European Union already at the upcoming EU summit in December. Zolkin was in prison? Yes. He was in jail for 6.5 years. In jail, not in prison. He received life imprisonment, but then he was released. In this regard, the United States and EU are inciting Zelensky to soften the conditions on which he is ready to negotiate. Ain't gonna happen. Also, don't worry about it. Zolkin is a good guy. He killed somebody, but he was a policeman. He was a police officer. He killed some dude, and he was for 6.5 years. He was fighting his case, and then he was released. Yeah, he's a good guy. All right. It seems like something is going on at the border with Belarus. Border guards recording the beginning of movement of equipment from Belarus. This is is Belarus going to attack Ukraine? Let's take a look at the movement of their equipment. That's crazy, man. That's the most amount of movement we've seen so far. Literally, Belarusians are moving equipment near the border. That's crazy. That's exactly what they're doing. I don't know why, but just moved it back and forth. 5D tactics. True. Yeah, he's still alive. I can't read the article, it's behind the paywall, but I heard they dug out trenches and installed dragon teeth. Well, yeah. It ain't working, but Russia has reached a dead end in Bakhmut and will soon lose it, says the Wall Street Journal. Our goal is to tactically encircle Bakhmut, said a platoon leader of Ukraine 3rd Assault Brigade, which is leading a counterattack south of the city. Can't read the full article, it's paywalled. I know this is hard for you. In UK, our news report Russia bombarding your cities even in daylight. Lately, they've been shooting in the evenings, but Ukraine is a big country. I don't get bombed personally. Article without paywall. Choose motorcycles. There you go. Aha, got it. All right. Russia hits a dead end in Bakhmut. Thank you. Kramatorsk, Ukraine. Russian forces have succeeded in taking control of the small eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. Their costly 10-month assault has left them exhausted and hemmed in with little chance of advancing. Since the battle for Bakhmut began last summer, observers have puzzled over why Moscow expended lives and equipment to destroy and capture a city with limited strategic value. Ukraine also drew criticism for devoting resources to its defense of the city, but its leaders have said bogging down Russian forces there was worth the cost. The protracted battle in which thousands of Russian soldiers have died has drawn parallels to past sieges, such as World War II fight over Stalingrad, in part due to its apparent futility. Bakhmut is like Stalingrad because it has attained a symbolic importance far beyond its strategic significance, said Mark Kane, senior advisor at the Center of Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Whether the price either side paid for the city was worth it will be determined by the next phase of the war. Victory in Bakhmut has given Russia something to show for its efforts after months without any meaningful gain, but its forces appear unable to capitalize on it. There was a daylight... Oh, that's true. That's true. There was a daylight attack with the ballistic missiles too. Ukraine, meanwhile, is poised to strike back Russian forces in a wildly anticipated offensive, as it strives to recapture almost 1/5 of its territory from Russia. While defending Bakhmut for so long cost Ukraine heavily, Kiev, that's how you spell it, didn't deploy to the city any of the brigades trained and equipped by Western allies in preparation for the offensive. Russia now finds itself bracing for attacks when its forces have been severely depleted in Bakhmut and by their own winter offensive that failed to make significant progress. The battle for Bakhmut has also widened divisions within Russian military establishment. Yes, they've got almost the whole of the city, but at what price, said Dmytro Kukarchuk, a battalion commander in the Ukraine 3rd Assault Brigade. Rather than pushing on toward other population centers west of Bakhmut, Russia must now hold a shattered prize against Ukrainian forces dug into nearby hills. You mean Belgorod? None of that shit matters now, okay? We don't give a fuck about that. It would be in our interest to create a buffer zone around Ukraine so that we wouldn't get attacked again, but that's another thing. At some point historically, especially in Europe, everyone pretty much owned some piece of land at one point or another, so. But yeah, there's a lot of Ukrainians there, and a funny thing there was a funny Russian video from a Russian TV channel where a girl was singing a song, she said, on Belgrade, ancient Belgrade language, which was just Ukrainian. It was so funny. They were like, wow, that's so cool. That's so, you know, old and stuff. And it was literally Ukrainian language. It's fucking stupid. If Russian paramilitary group Wanker fully pulls out of the city as promised by its founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, other forces will be needed to hold it. With the capture of Bakhmut, Prigozhin said he had created an opportunity for the regular Russian army to launch offensives to the west. However, Ukrainian forces have launched a series of localized counterattacks north and south of the city, regaining ground that took the Russians weeks to seize. The battalion commander of the 3rd Assault Brigade. Is this photoshopped? Why does it look like that? The aim is to tactically encircle Bakhmut, said a platoon commander, which is leading the counterattack south of the city. He used flash? Okay. Whether or not that goal is attainable, the counterattacks are preventing Russian forces from regrouping or deploying elsewhere. Give me a second. Counterattacks around Bakhmut are one in series of moves by Ukraine to prepare the battlefield for a broader effort to recapture territory seized by Russia. Yeah, shaping operations, obviously. While Russia and Ukraine battle for control of the last few blocks of Bakhmut, drones were striking targets on Russian soil, culminating in an attack on the Kremlin earlier this month. Dude, I watched another fucking TikTok today. I actually teared up. It was so weird. It was an old movie. A documentary movie made by some Russian guy in USSR who was going to these territories, like on the border with Ukraine and Russia. He was talking to people there, and he was there was these two guys, and he was asking them, who are they? What is their like, so there's a nationality and then there's citizenship, right? So he was asking their nationality, and it was interesting, the stories they were telling. It was pretty old. It's a pretty old, like, documentary, but they were saying, like, and the dudes were really old too, but they were saying that they were Ukrainians. But at that point, when they were younger, when they were kids, they were told that they weren't Ukrainians, and that they were Russians, and like they tried to change their identity and shit like that. It was sad, because people didn't know who they were. It was like a very bittersweet video. I don't know. I was like, that sucks. I don't know. Just, I don't know. Horrible shit. Anyway, armed groups. So I want Russia to fucking lose like they never lost ever. So it's gonna fucking crack their degenerate fucking shit forever. Armed groups backed by Ukraine staged an incursion into Russia last week in a major... They performed a raid into Russia last week in a major breach that will force Moscow to look at the security of its own borders. It ain't. At the same time, Ukraine has been intensifying strikes on Russian fuel storage depots and other logistics sites using drones and long-range missiles supplied by the UK. After ramming up against Ukrainian defenses in Bakhmut, Russian forces, and it's a big article, and I feel like I'm not learning anything new. It's not realistic. What is not realistic? Yeah, that's what USSR did, yeah. We studied the enemy and exhausted him, said a soldier of the 3rd Assault, which includes many members of the Azov regiment that fought Russian forces in Mariupol last year. With combat experience and high motivation, we identified their weakness, waited for the good weather, and seized the moment. Fedorenko said his unit was successfully suppressing Russian artillery fire using radar systems supplied by the US, enabling them to pinpoint its sources to within 100 meters. In that way, they have knocked out Russian firing positions on the front line while picking off their infantry with drones. Then our infantry armed knocked them out of the trench meter by meter, he said. You have to burn them out of every position. At first, the enemy was leading the game, said a deputy brigade commander from the 3rd Assault. Now the ball is in our hands. Mobilization force generation updates. The Russian Ministry of Justice registered the civil society group Council of Mothers of Wives as a foreign agent. That's so funny. They were pretty big in the previous wars. They were always advocating against wars. And Kiev has, but not this time. Kiev has again been targeted by barbaric airstrikes, thankfully with limited effect due to the Patriot air defense systems. That's true. I spoke with Zelensky and reiterated Netherlands is committed to support Ukraine however it can, from strengthening air defense systems to starting F-16 pilot training as soon as possible. Helping Ukraine to defend itself is not a choice, it must be done. Assistance to Ukraine will also be a key agenda point at this Thursday European Political Community Summit in Chisinau. Stop taking our money. Fucking Twitter, dude. You read something and then it's like fucking a load of shit in your fucking general direction. So regarding the amount of planes we need, there was a post by our air defense commander that we would need like about 50 planes. So there's plenty of planes. They're expensive, but there's plenty of planes. So we'll see what's gonna happen. 50 planes is big, but you know, it's big, but it's big if it's true, you know. Very realistic, I agree.
Hello, beautiful community.
A10 is not effective in Ukraine. Stop with the A10 circle jerk, please.
Just a very quick one. We'll keep it under 4 or 5 minutes today, simply because people keep asking questions about Prigozhin's outbursts and then Mr. Girkin's commentaries.
Oh, you know what's also interesting? So that historian guy also mentioned the events in Odessa. Remember, the propaganda likes to bring up that Ukrainians burned a bunch of like I don't know fucking what they're saying, but the thing is, as you remember, Russian propaganda literally is based on the notion of know you, and when he said what actually happened there, it made so much sense. So apparently pro-Russian separatists and collaborants in Odessa created a riot and then captured a building, which they barricaded, and they put a Russian flag on top, and they had Molotovs, and they started a fire in their own building, and they fucking killed themselves. That was funny. And now they're saying like pro-Ukrainian rioters did it or some shit like that. It's fucking funny.
On Prigozhin's outburst, Mr. Girkin has said that Prigozhin has conveyed the intent to organize a coup. Now, a little bit of housework. Now, most of the Prigozhin experts online didn't know who Prigozhin was in February 2022.
Also, when the propaganda says that people had referendum in Crimea, when referendum in Crimea happened, Crimea was already under military control, and when the vote happened, Russian soldiers controlled the whole fucking half island. But the funny thing is that in Donetsk and Luhansk, when they had referendums, Girkin literally says himself that it was done under the barrel of the gun that he himself fucking held. He says that in an interview. There's videos of it, so that's funny too.
So,
and it doesn't matter either, you know?
Take that as you might.
It's all bullshit. Everyone knows what.
Second, that remark about the hapless granddad wasn't directed at Putin. At a stretch, it had a naughty element of ambiguity to it, right? So it's quite wrong to say, as a few people online have said, that that was clearly directed at Putin. It certainly wasn't clearly directed at Putin. Putin wouldn't have taken it as such either. Mr. Girkin and Mr. Prigozhin are competitors. They're competing for the same demographic. And perhaps up to 20% of the population, and that could grow, are available to them, right? Now, as things stand, Mr. Girkin probably has a little bit more...
What's up, Aluma? How you doing? Who is this dude? He is an Oxford PhD political philosopher. I'm sorry, not Oxford, Hogwarts.
Organicity, but not much power. Whereas Mr. Prigozhin has quite a bit of power. But if you strip...
You're in Kharkiv? The fuck are you doing there?
Prigozhin of all of his resources and just put him out on the street, I think he's still, even though his star is rising, a less organic figure than Mr. Girkin. And people don't recognize, the Z radicals don't recognize Mr. Prigozhin's authenticity the way they recognize Mr. Girkin's authenticity. And indeed, Mr. Girkin has a kind of deranged murderous authenticity. If he were just a guy speaking in a cafeteria without taking any practical action on his ideas, that'd be a kind of quaintness, a kind of neo-imperialistic quaintness to them.
I have a link to that story. I guess I could find it, but you can just Google it, right?
Now, what Mr. Prigozhin is saying and what Mr. Girkin is criticizing him for saying is just what Mr. Girkin has been saying for months. So we've got to be realistic about that. Now, of course, Mr. Prigozhin is saying this from a position of having resources and power. He's not just commentating online. But nevertheless, he isn't saying much that Mr. Girkin didn't say earlier. So these guys are competing, and their competition is going to be very intense, and there's going to be plenty of other actors in that.
Let's find that story on
squabble
stream.
That rolling around in the mud in the Z radical circles. Is Mr. Prigozhin going for Putin? Beyond that statement, I think got misunderstood. No, he isn't. He is critically, but without too much vitriol, going for Gerasimov, but above all, with great vitriol, he is going for Shoigu. His attitude to Mr. Putin is one of respect. His attitude to Putinism is one of conservatism and reverence. So we need a Putinist Russia. What is Putin's role in Putinist Russia for Mr. Prigozhin? Well, perhaps it's staying as the leader, but maybe being less involved in some of the running of the state. And in that, some people who Mr. Prigozhin likes would like to be involved. Now, if there is a scenario where all of this might dramatize and that we could be closer to talk of...
There's videos of that. Let's watch the videos.
Coup-like enterprises. Well, that might be something that happens if Ukraine is phenomenally successful with the counteroffensive. right? But at this stage,
Right.
no, it's not clear
Right.
what it is that
Right.
people have
Right.
in mind in the West when they're saying that there is a potential coup underway in Russia. There isn't. So that's my comment for the day.
Let's debunk Russian propaganda, right? Let's go. Debunking Russian propaganda. Let's go. Short King video. It's a short video. Yeah. Video. Okay, there's a BBC fucking article about it. Is BBC good, guys? Wikipedia article. That was good. BBC is great. Yo, this dude got a BBC. Guys, I got a BBC right here. BBC article, right? Okay. Tragedy in Odessa. Oh, I've been there. I know where this is. I've been there. I actually streamed. When I was in Odessa, I streamed, and you saw me walk past this building. Alright, let's translate this. Okay, fuck it. I'll translate myself. Ah! Never mind. Alright. One Google away. Oh, that's a tragedy. Do we know more? Question mark. Thursday, May 2nd, marks 5 years since the tragic events in Odessa. Clashes between Euromaidan supporters and pro-Russian activists and fires in the House of Trade Unions killed 48 people and injured another 250. Parents walk with their children. Visitors from the station go up to the shop. Go to the stop. Visitors from this. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna translate this. This fucking AIDS. Okay. Parents walk with their children. Visitors from the train station are going to the bus stop. This is how Kulikovo Field looks like, close to the anniversary. The only reminder about the tragedy are the flowers on the fence near the building. This place became a symbol of the May tragedy, but you have to remember that massive protests started not here. Eyewitness and the participator of expert journalistic group for the 2nd of May, Vladislav Belinsky, says, in the group there were journalists and experts in different spheres that did an independent investigation. I believe that I believe that shifting the focus to the fire is a manipulation. The events near the trade union building were already developing as the final stage of a large confrontation on Hretska, on Greek Square, that you can which can be considered an analog to the Russian Spring in Donetsk, says Mr. Belinsky. Okay, I think I'm just gonna translate it like this. It looks all right. first shots fired. The first clashes took place on Hretska Square, which is a Greek square. From there, a patriotic march of Odessa and Kharkiv football fans started to the match. From there, started a patriotic march of Odessa and Kharkiv football fans between Chernomorets and Metalist. They were joined by other patriotic organizations and pro-Ukrainian activists. Well-equipped members of the so-called anti-Maidan decided to disrupt the march. Although, as it turned out later, the day before the tragedy, members of the Kulikova Pole movement who participated in the anti-Maidan rallies agreed to avoid meeting with patriots. One of the leaders of the movement, Maurice Ibrahim, recalls this. We agreed not to meet each other on the 2nd of May near on the Kulikovy field near Gretsky Square to avoid casualties and fighting. I did my part, remembers Maurice Ibrahim. But the decision was not unanimous. As the anti-Maidan protesters still showed up at the march, the representative of Kulikova Pole himself does not give a clear answer as to why the agreement was violated. Okay. As far as I listened to our people, they were trying to prevent the pro-Ukrainian activists from going to Kulikova field. They wanted to detain them on Hretska Street. We still need to figure out why some of them came, but this is our internal relationship, says Maurice. This is how the historic center of Odessa turns into a battlefield. First pyrotechnics are used, then paving stones. Law enforcement officers have little control over the situation. Then came the first shots and the first dead. Ihor Ivanov, a member of the Right Sector and Euromaidan activist, Andriy Birukov, their portraits have been hanging at the site of the tragedy for 5 years now. These boys died. In total, 6 people from both sides died during the clashes on the square. All of them died of gunshot wounds. Okay, now the fire. And the myths about the fire. The clashes continued on the Kulikova Pole. It was there that the Odessa-based anti-Maidan was at the time. Activists demolish tents and then both sides actively throw Molotov cocktails. Some of the bottles are flying from the trade union building where the anti-Maidan activists are hiding. After 15 minutes of fighting, the building starts to burn. Dozens of people remain blocked inside. Some of them jumped out of the windows to escape the fire. Rescuers did not arrive for more than half an hour. That event, 42 more people died on Kulikova Pole. 8 people died from falling while trying to escape from a burning building. 34 died of burns and carbon monoxide poisoning. The next few days after the tragedy, dozens of myths about the causes of death on Kulikova Pole spread around the city. There were fakes that poisonous substances were used there, that there were hundreds of dead bodies in the basements, about a group of punishers who broke into the house and killed people. There I must say that the course of the investigation, the behavior of the authorities at the time greatly contributed to the development of these rumors. Another rumor. Okay, where's the video? I want to find... there's definitely a video of this whole thing. Give me a second. Trying to find it. Nope. Yeah, that was loud as fuck. So. Okay, this doesn't look like a full video, but this looks like a video.
Вранці
Is there okay? Okay, so in the morning, people from Kharkiv, the football fans of the Chornomorets Metallist came
на матч
In
Чорноморець
the morning.
Металіст приїхали
to
харківські
the football match,
вболівальники.
right? From Kharkiv.
Одеські
Makes sense.
майданівці разом із футбольними фанами анонсують спільну ходу за
So then, pro-Maidan Odessa people, together with the football fans, decided to do a march for unity of Ukraine.
єдність України. Опівдні проросійські активісти оголошують
Then pro-Russian activists at 12 o'clock, 12 a.m., announce a gathering on the Alexandriv Prospect.
загальний збір на Олександрівському проспекті і позначають своїх прихильників червоним скотчем.
And they put a red tape on the arm for the people who are with them.
Антимайданівці заявляють про намір іти колоною паралельно руху
Anti-Maidan people are saying that they're going to go with a column parallel to the pro-Euromaidan.
Євромайданівців. Близько 15-ї
At about 15 o'clock on the Soborno Square, pro-Ukrainian
на
activists
Соборній
are
площі
gathering.
збираються проукраїнські активісти. Сформована колона починає рух.
And they start moving.
Близько 15:30
About
на вулиці
15:30,
Грецькій дві колони
In
перетинають.
the Kherezka Street, two columns cross each other. And they start fighting.
Розпочинається сутичка. Хід іде каміння, піротехніка,
So they use traumatic pistols, stones, and
травматична
pyrotechnics.
зброя, коктейлі Молотова.
Molotov cocktails too.
Міліціонери намагаються стати у шеренгу між сторонами
Police tries to keep them at bay.
Між 16:10 і 16:00
Between 1610 and 1630, due to the I'm reading subtitles, due to the encounter between streets Deribasovska
В
and
ході сутичок
Gretska,
у провулку між вулицями Грецькою і Дерибасівською смертельні поранення з вогнепальної зброї отримують майданів.
pro-Maidan people receive fatal wounds from guns.
27-річний Ігор Іванов з
27-year-old Igor Ivanov
Білгород-Дністровського,
from Belgorod-Dnistrovsky,
35-річний
and
одесит Андрій Білюков.
35-year-old Odessa dude Andrei
Близько
Biryukov.
17:30 проукраїнські
About 1730, pro-Ukrainian activists are capturing a fire car
активісти захоплюють пожежну машину і з її допомогою відтісняють антимайданівців.
and and with it push anti-Maidan people away.
Багато міліціонерів самоусуваються від виконання своїх
A lot of police guys just
обов'язків і не роблять спроб зупинити конфлікт.
not do anything to stop the conflict.
Протистояння на Грецькій вулиці і Грецькій площі тривало понад 3 години.
This lasted for more than 3 hours.
Загалом в центрі міста загинули 6 людей.
About 6 people died in the center of the city. At 19 o'clock, after the football match was over, the football fans leave stadium and join pro-Maidan people.
Вболівальники покидають стадіон і долучаються до майданівців. Антимайданівці відступають до будинку
Anti-Maidan people fuck off to the house of like workers.
профспілок, переносять туди з кулакового поля свої речі, каністри
They move their things
з
there.
бензином, барикади.
Bro, all you fucking look at these fucking losers. That fucking piece of shit black and yellow fucking degenerate shit. All you need to know about these people, right?
Каністри з бензином барикадуються
It says it's a shitty video. It doesn't show how police is protecting the pro-Russians.
у приміщенні. Близько 19:30
About 1930, the workers' building starts fire
у будинку
starts.
профспілок спалахує пожежа. Проукраїнські активісти підтягують металеві конструкції, намагаються рятувати
Pro-Ukrainian activists put a metal constructions near the windows to try and save the people.
людей. Очевидці неодноразово викликають пожежників.
People who are nearby are calling for fire departments.
Девочка, да. Вызовите, пожалуйста,
Girls, this is a recording of the phone call. Girls, please get a fire truck.
Едет машина, едет.
The car is coming. It's gonna be there soon.
Сока. Ну,
People are jumping out of windows here.
ехать, сколько прыгают люди, разбиваются.
People are jumping and dying. They're coming. They're coming.
Близько 20:15
At 2015,
приїжджають пожежні машини і починають
the fire
гасити
trucks are
вогонь.
there and
В
start
результаті
to
пожежі
and stop the fire. In the result of the fire, 42
загинуло
people
42
died.
людини. Загалом 2 травня 2014 року з обох сторін загинули 48 людей
48 people died on both sides, and more than 200
і
people
понад
got
200
wounded.
отримали поранення.
Well, there it is. There's more videos on this. There's a
Ці версії озвучували самі надрупень. Не влаштує. І проти
Do you have a video of that? There's a video apparently how pro-Russians activists that were on the roof of this building were throwing Molotovs into the crowd and shooting. I also remember reading that, but I also saw the videos. I just don't. Don't remember where I saw it. Yeah, if you can take a look, I'd appreciate it. It's hard to, guys, it's hard to navigate Ukrainian internet because, like, Google is, like, cucking this shit. Ooh, I could ask fucking ChatGPT. It can fucking browse this shit now. Of course they would, right? Makes sense. It's literally Russian MO. No, you did it, right? Oh, you found it already? Damn, fucking holy shit.
Ну, а теперь...
This is a Zolkin video about it, right?
Собственно говоря, про 2 мая в Одессе. Так и пророссийские активисты.
No subtitles, of course. Is the auto-translate gonna be good or is it gonna be shitty?
Ходили митингами и различными шествиями в Одессе на протяжении февраля, марта и апреля 2014 года. То есть все началось совсем не 2 мая. Но также важно отметить, что эти активисты вообще-то общались между собой и пытались найти какой-то компромисс и взаимопонимание. Поэтому митинги носили абсолютно спокойный характер. Те ходили по одним улицам, те ходили по другим улицам. Столкновений не было, все проходило спокойно. На 2 мая был назначен футбольный матч Черноморец-Металлист. Металлист Харьков. Соответственно, харьковские и одесские болельщики собрались на этот матч. И как обычно, как ежедневно это и происходило, практически ежедневно, был назначен митинг или шествие проукраинских активистов. Вроде бы все как обычно, но нет. В этот день, именно в этот день, почему-то пророссийские активисты решили пересечься с украинскими. И когда я говорил этому молодому человеку на интервью про цепи и палки, про вооруженных людей с пророссийской символикой, то я ведь ничего не придумывал от себя, потому что этих именно людей с красными повязками вы можете видеть на своем экране.
Понял, на стадион. Так вы здесь при чем? Чего вы туда пришли? Что творится? Мы что там творится? Ну ты пойди посмотри, кто там находится. Чего вы пришли?
He says, what is happening on the stadium? What is happening on the stadium? They're asking the police guy. He says, why the fuck you need to know? He says, look what's happening there. He says, we're just standing here and not touching anyone.
Этих людей почему-то очень сильно возмутил приезд украинских фанов в украинскую Одессу. В полдень 12:00 они объявили общий сбор на Александровском проспекте. И кого-то это может сильно удивить, но почему-то российские СМИ и пророссийские блогеры совершенно не уделяют этому эпизоду никакого внимания. А ведь раздача бит и ребята с
Distribution of baseball bats.
спортивной внешности, которые разминаются, не могли, в общем-то, остаться за кадром, но вот в российских СМИ и у блогеров они почему-то выпали.
Цель сегодняшнего марша?
Мы приехали с Харькова на матч Черноморец-Металлист.
А провокации опасаетесь?
Нет. Нам, понимаете, надоело бояться. Как можно, какие могут быть провокации? Видите вот это вот чудо? Я не знаю, это надо быть совсем отморозком, чтобы против этого чуда что-нибудь спровоцировать. В Одессе я ничего не понимаю.
Среди украинских болельщиков, как вы понимаете, есть разные, как и среди активистов. Есть фаны, есть ультрас, есть обыкновенные люди, которые просто приехали на матч. Но поскольку на российских СМИ вам более чем достаточно показывали украинских активистов, я в очередной раз вам демонстрирую колонну из российских активистов, вооруженных, в касках.
Скажите, пожалуйста, что у нас происходит?
Так мы сами пытаемся понять, что-то не поняли. Но кого-то, наверное, будут бить сегодня.
He says, the woman says, the translation is fucking shit. When Zolkin is saying, it translates correctly. He says, what is happening, woman asks. The guy says, I don't know what's happening, I'm trying to understand myself. I think somebody's gonna get beaten today. For the Ukrainians, for the Ukrainian flags, the windows got destroyed. He says,
Уже после обеда на пересечении улиц Греческой и Дерибасовской две колонны сходятся, то есть две колонны украинских активистов и пророссийских активистов сходятся и начинаются столкновения. До сих пор остается под вопросом, почему лидер куликовцев, так называемых, то есть тех самых пророссийских активистов, Сергей Долженков, повел свою колонну на перерез украинским активистам.
Well, we can just Google who Sergei Dolzhenkov is, and it's probably going to be very obvious. Sergei Dolzhenkov, an activist of the Russian Unity. Oh! Born in 1987, retired police captain fired from the authorities for raping a minor. Activist of the Russian Unity, leader of Odessa Druzhia. Wow. He's in prison. Still.
Потому что украинских активистов было намного больше, это было понятно. Понятно, что российские активисты, пророссийские, были вооружены, были в касках. Именно так их и можно отличить. В касках с красными ленточками. В основном они все в форме военной. Но украинских активистов ведь намного больше. Не должны были они идти на пересечение с ними. Это было для них крайне опасно. И тем не менее они на него пошли. Ну и то, что они начали там выхватывать, это, в общем-то, неудивительно.
Let's limit the violence on screen a little bit.
Я не открою вам никакой тайны, если скажу, что там месиво было довольно приличное. Получили множество травм, и тем не менее...
He misspoke. Many got injuries.
Тем не менее. в результате столкновений на перекрестке Дерибасовской и Греческой смертельные ранения получили именно украинские активисты. Игорь Иванов из Белгород-Днестровского 27 лет и одессит Андрей Бирюков 35 лет. Это были огнестрельные ранения, несовместимые с жизнью.
This is killed with a weapon, with a fire, with a gun. We don't really have guns in here, just saying. So it is very likely that among the pro-Russian activists there were some Russian military, ex-military, whatever, having guns.
Ну и, наверное, как вы уже сами догадались, просто по логике настроение у украинских активистов.
Oh, that's very interesting. Look at this. Police, Russian activists, Russian activists, Russian activists.
После смертей этих резко изменилось, скажем так. Им удалось оттеснить пророссийских активистов. И что интересно, в этой ситуации милиция еще тогда милиция была, постаралась построить кордон между активистами, и защищали милиционеры именно российских активистов.
It's not a secret that Odessa local authorities were pro-Russian. And still are some of them, but it's getting changed.
Фактически вы можете видеть, что в одной колонии оборонительной стоят и милиционеры, и те самые пророссийские активисты. Но при этом, при всем, мы слышим что-то похожее, какие-то хлопки, похожие на выстрелы огнестрельного оружия. Откуда же издаются эти выстрелы? Ой, смотрите, так среди пророссийских активистов есть вооруженные люди. В общем-то, мы об этом уже говорили, но сейчас мы видим этому явное подтверждение. Знаете, что-то...
They're screaming killers, killers, they killed the person, killers.
Мне подсказывает, что на российском телевидении или у российских блогеров этот эпизод тоже забыли показать. И именно поэтому жители Донбасса знают, что в Доме профсоюзов сожгли невинных людей, но совершенно ничего
Here's the video of the guys on the roof of the building shooting.
Не знают о том, как это все начиналось. При этом скорая, как вы видите, помогает обеим сторонам этого конфликта. То есть нет никаких нацистов. Есть просто вооруженное столкновение, по крайней мере вооруженное огнестрельным оружием с одной стороны, между пророссийскими активистами и украинскими активистами. Вот что происходит в Одессе. А вот и стрелки на крыше здания. Также их
Not the arrows, the shooters on the roof of the building.
Несложно идентифицировать как пророссийских активистов. Соответствующая форма, повязки, каски.
Yeah, you see the red ribbons and you see the fucking...
На месте событий двое пострадавших, один с окровавленной головой. Ему обеспечили коридор и сейчас госпитализировали.
It says two injured guys, one with the head injury. They had a corridor. They got him out and hospitalized. Another guy is behind the shield.
Обороняет его от расправы, как видите.
Oh, they're protecting a pro-Russian guy from getting killed by the mob. Pro-Ukrainian dudes protect a pro-Russian guy from getting killed by the mob.
И как вы видите, украинские активисты пытаются сдержать своих побратимов, защищают пророссийского активиста от того, чтобы ему, ну, как вы понимаете, не навалили. Да? То есть не изверги и не нацисты, а люди, которые пытаются даже в такой обстановке, при огнестрелах, даже понимая уже, что те по ним стреляют, контролировать ситуацию. Далее пророссийские активисты отступили в Дом профсоюзов. Кстати, когда они баррикадировались, вы же должны понимать, что у них тоже с собой были и коктейли Молотова, и канистры с бензином и так далее. Примерно в 19:30 в Доме профсоюзов вспыхивает пожар. Вот очаг возгорания сложно понять. То есть, если в нижний этаж, да, справа, который вы видите, еще можно было закинуть фаер, то я не думаю, что на 4-й или 5-й этаж, который загорелся слева, можно было его докинуть. Здесь сложно что-то сказать. Но в целом мы понимаем, что разгорелось очень быстро, потому что там большие помещения, там серьезные сквозняки, окна везде пооткрывали, разгорелось в считанные минуты. При этом нельзя не отметить, что да, действительно, люди начинают спрыгивать с окон, да, действительно, это все большая трагедия, и мы не отрицаем, что это действительно было, но я почему-то не нашел видео, о котором говорили, что якобы украинские...
There's a video proof of this. Ukrainian activists providing a platform for people to jump down.
Добивали под окнами. Вместо этого нашел видео, где украинские активисты пытались помочь людям, которые спрыгивали с окон. И в том числе подтягивали наши активисты, подтягивали металлические леса для того, чтобы помочь спуститься другим людям. Вот если смотреть на эту ситуацию в целом, то мы понимаем, что это было за противостояние, мы понимаем, с чего оно началось. И
and now we understand so much more, right?
Погибло 42 человека, остальных удалось спасти. Более 200 получили ранения, 48 человек в общем погибло в тот день в Одессе.
There you go, guys. What's the orange and black ribbon called? We call it Koloradska Lentочка, but I don't know. It's like that. It's Georgian ribbon. The St. George ribbon appeared in the 1769 during the reign of Catherine II. At the time, it was the highest military award of the Russian Empire. It's like imperialistic symbolism. All right, there you go. Video proof of everything. Hard to fight that. What else? What else was a big propaganda thing? Oh, right, the crucified boy. Which there's nothing, no videos, no any kind of proof, just some crazy woman giving an interview, paid obviously. Yeah, they crucified a boy. Nationalists did it. What? Can I link that video?
Ну, а теперь.
There you go. Never mind. Okay, you made me do it. Now you're saying I shouldn't mind. Interesting how that works, huh? Where is the half of my YouTube page? Bro, why is everything breaking? Where is my shit? Where is the panel on the right? Okay. Well, that would be a lot more difficult because it's a simple cause and like. How do I say this? It's very simple what happened in Donbass. Rather, Luhansk and Donetsk Republic. People Republic, whatever the fuck they call it. Donetsk and Luhansk regions. I need to get used to the proper naming. Russians invaded the regions, started forcefully conscripting people into militias and using militias to fight Ukrainian troops. And Ukrainian troops were just targeting, literally we're doing exactly the same what we're doing right now, targeting military, Russian military supplies, ammunition, storages, whatever the fuck. Purely military targets. Never civilians. Why?
Hello everyone.
Let's watch a meme video. I need to chill.
This is your daily dose of internet.
Sir, what do you think of Daddy's onion breath?
The most magnificent looking feller I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you, bro.
God. Wait, let me get one more good look at you before I never see you again in my life.
It's kind of cringe.
Yeah.
The president of
I feel like Prague filmed this video.
Argentina got a new plane and wanted to show off.
That's not safe. Professional do not attempt. What? I can't attempt it in my fucking Boeing plane that I own that I can fly? Really? Damn. Fucking ruined it for me. Why did I buy it, guys? God, I hate this fucking cuck shit.
I have
A professional do not attempt.
never seen a cat drink via Bluetooth before.
This is a major scandal that was not authorized. Yeah, I can't imagine anyone authorizing that.
Can I get a water cup? Can I get soda instead? Huh? Can I get soda instead? I don't care. Let me speak to your manager real quick. Hey manager, can I talk to you real quick? She is amazing. She needs a raise.
These firefighters used a device to look into a home to find survivors. They saw what appeared to be an outline of a baby sitting in a chair.
What we really had is a baby doll.
Oops.
This delivery driver couldn't resist the temptation.
Oh, no, no, what are you doing? Hello.
Harry Gaudreau, top of the slide shot.
Look at how this bridge in New York is designed to bend on really windy days.
A professional do not attempt. If you're not a professional bridge, do not bend like that. Guys, if you're not a professional, don't you fucking dare to attempt this.
A diver found a pufferfish with something strange on it.
It ate a ribbon? Or is that a fucking worm or some shit?
After a closer look, turns out it was just some weird looking poop.
Hey. Do not attempt! Do not attempt!
Okay.
Aww, it thinks it's her mother.
This orangutan really wanted to see the baby.
Get it?
This spider thinks this cursor is potential food.
Gonna jump. Do not.
That is the end of this video.
attempt
We hope you enjoyed.
this.
And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Later.
He didn't say that. You see my recommendations with this guy now? Fucking watched all of his videos almost. Christ almighty. Guys, you better. Guys, if you're gonna attempt that and you're gonna hurt yourself, you're gonna regret it, okay? I'll make sure you will regret it. I'll make sure you'll remember it for the rest of your fucking life, okay? if you dare to attempt it,
So let me be clear.
What if?
Нас часто питають.
oh yeah, we watched this one. We watched this video. But then again, it's like the thing is, you can always find some YouTube videos about it, but I think the best thing is to probably read just Wikipedia, because it always has sources, right? And posting something on Wikipedia is extremely fucking hard to do, guys. They're unironically checking your shit like really fucking hardcore. But we all know this fucking fake shit. I don't know if there's a point in watching this.
Where things stand today.
He wasn't like, oh yeah, we're.
Oh my god, it has Hassan in it. Is he gonna look like a fucking moron? Let's go. I am watching this.
Where things stand today. First, conflict is not inevitable. There is still time and space for diplomacy. The United States, in lockstep with our allies and partners, has offered Russia a path away from crisis and toward greater security.
The weird thing about the reaction to the build-up for this current war wasn't so much the skepticism that it was going to happen. There were lots of good reasons to be skeptical. Really, it was the obnoxiously smug but weirdly angry and aggrieved way in which all that skepticism was expressed. I mean, in this instance, America wasn't really asking anyone to take their word for it. Their analysis was based on satellite photography that everyone had access to. You could simply look up the photos yourself and be like, yep, that's a bunch of tanks parked on the border. Or, yep, that's a bunch of landing ships from the Baltic Fleet suddenly traveling through the Bosphorus. If this was a bluff, it was the most elaborate bluff in the history of warfare.
The thing is, Russia did this many times before.
And yet...
What is the evidence that they play? I mean, this is like crisis actors, really? This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting.
In Washington, the
crisis actors? I mean, listen, just because every Russian looks like he's in crisis doesn't necessarily mean that they're all actors, okay?
Territorial integrity of the United States.
Just part of living in Russia. You're just...
States means...
Oh, this is going to be great.
Like Alex Jones territory you're getting.
In Washington, the territorial integrity of the United States means precisely nothing. Walls are racist. We're a nation of immigrants. But the territorial integrity of Ukraine, that is something we must fight for.
Bro, nobody's annexing American territory. Just because there's immigrants going to your country, they're not annexing anything. Now, when you have immigrants in your country and they create small what is it called? Enclaves inside your country, and they don't assimilate, and they don't learn your language, and they don't abide by your rules, yeah, that's bad. But, and you have to fight it. But that's not another country annexing your shit.
What we know, Matt, is what I've just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this planning activity. But let me because obviously,
you know, like they have, like remember when Colin Powell held up their thing? They have sarin gas. They have these chemicals.
Hitler invaded countries based on Germanic ties at first. Yeah, dude. Talk to me when he's fucking throwing Ukrainians in a fucking. What are you talking about? Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians at a concentration camp. Okay, Hitler.
It's only bad when concentration camps, okay? When countries getting attacked and cities are razed and people are destroyed, as long as there are no concentration camps. What, this guy's a fucking brainlet, holy shit. Oh, he's about to give one of his stupidest takes. Don't let me interrupt.
What are you talking about? Talk to me when he's throwing Ukrainians at a concentration camp, okay? Hitler wasn't fucking bad because he...
What is it?
he's throwing Ukrainians at a concentration camp, okay? Hitler wasn't fucking bad because he decided to invade Austria. He was bad because he was fucking killing Jews, okay? That was the problem.
I think-
He wasn't like, oh
Wait,
yeah,
wait,
we're
wait.
gonna fucking annex territory with like Germanic people in it. That wasn't the main problem with Hitler, I think.
This is not detached skepticism.
I love this clip.
This is an emotional investment in defending a much larger worldview.
America said Russia's gonna invade. Obviously, I can't support that view because my worldview is America equals bad. Like, excuse me?
Sometimes you see people blaming this on the far left, or tankies, quote unquote. Or sometimes you see people saying this is a matter of horseshoe theory, blaming the far left and the far right.
None of us give a damn about Ukraine. Remember the Holodomor?
Holodomor? What is Holodomor? Dude. It's not Holodomor. It's not hologram. Okay? It's Holodomor. Okay? Not hold my door, not Hodor, not Holodomor.
Do you even know what it was?
But look at who is actually...
Yes, I know what it was. If you don't know what it is, it's a head of the Hogwarts School, Mr. Dumbledore.
Actually peddling this story. One of the big pushers of Russian propaganda...
I'm sorry. No, obviously. Holodomor. Okay, I really don't want to mess up the dates here, but wasn't it 1931, 1933, a manufactured famine in Ukraine by Soviet Union? I think I'm right on that.
Propaganda was Nation magazine, which has never been particularly radical. Matt Taibbi is a centrist left liberal. Peter Hitchens is center right. I don't think the
What the fuck? Wait, what?
Propaganda was Nation mag.
The silence of American hawks about Kiev's atrocities. The regime has repeatedly carried out artillery and air attacks on city centers, creating humanitarian catastrophe. Is it 8 years dumbass?
Magazine, which has never been particularly radical. Matt Taibbi is a centrist.
It's still true that when anonymous government sources tell you something without telling you the basis of or source, you can't just run it. Except everyone does. The Europeans and Zelensky were suggesting even they hadn't been shown evidence. We literally posted an article that Russia's gonna invade months before anyone else did. It was actually Budanov. He gave interview and he said, yeah, Russia's gonna invade the country. It was back in the autumn. And even before that, people were giving opinion pieces, of course, but...
Peter Hitchens is center right.
Peter Hitchens, why stand up for Russia? Okay.
Right. I don't think The Guardian is anyone's idea of revolution.
In Ukraine, the US is dragging us towards war with Russia.
Revolutionaries. And
Washington role in Ukraine and its backing for the regime neo-Nazis.
Glenn Greenwald is whatever Glenn Greenwald is. This is a pan-ideological phenomenon, and it's a relatively recent.
That's bad.
You didn't see this even as late as 2012. It all started in 2014 with Russia's decision to invade the...
Most Americans not interested, not our fight. It is your fight. It is. It is. Just like it's the fight of Europe, just like it's the fight of Asian countries, it's the fight of the whole world, just like it was in World War II. Nobody wants this conflict growing. This needs to end. Ukraine needs support. It's the right thing to do. You also deter other countries from doing shit like this. Yeah, and you protect democracy. And also, like, you're not even sending your own troops. You're just sending weapons. It's like the easiest fucking thing you can do.
Southeast of Ukraine, also known as the Donbass.
After Crimea, the political divide in Ukraine started to shift from a linguistic or regional divide into a generation gap among Russian speakers. Because young people were getting their news about the Maidan from their friends or the internet, whereas older people were getting it from Russian language cable news.
Listen, I don't give a fuck what you think, but let's think about here for repercussions, okay? You're saying that it doesn't matter what borders it ends at. If Russia is going to get what they want, they're not gonna stop there. It means that countries can basically invade other countries, fight those countries, take their territory, and call it their own territory. And basically, if Russia is going to successfully do that, it means that anyone else in the world could try something like that. Do you understand the repercussions for the world? It's just gonna be bad. There's plenty of regimes that would want to invade other countries, and while they might not win necessarily, it's going to be a huge pain in the ass. Look at, let's say, North Korea. Are like, obviously they're like years behind, but they have a lot of people and they have some weapons, and they could potentially attack South Korea. What if Kim Jong-un is like, you know what, Russia succeeded, why the fuck can't I? And he may lose, he will definitely lose, but how many people are gonna die, right? Will America support South Korea? Probably, yeah, they're a strategic ally. What about China? China's gonna be like, oh, Russia was successful. Let's take military control over Taiwan. U.S. shouldn't do anything there either. Do you understand? It's not about the borders. It's about Russia losing or winning. And you, as a Western citizen, honestly, as any citizen, Russians don't understand this, but they need for Russia to lose this war. Because if Russia's going to win, how many Russians died already in this war? It's a pointless war. It's for nothing. I'm not going to attack Russia. It's not. They're saying they're protecting themselves, but it's like fucking propaganda shit. So nobody, not a single civilian, needs Russia to win. And you not either. Do you understand it? It's not about the borders.
And according to Russian cable news...
Not to you, I mean.
Maidan was the start of a neo-Nazi, anti-Russian genocide. In reality, the new government was mostly made up of members from Yulia Tymoshenko's party, with Yulia's longtime second-in-command, Alexander Turchinov, as president, and the young technocrat Arseny Yatsenyuk as prime minister. But it didn't really matter how innocuous the new regime was, since they were still appointed rather than elected, in the aftermath of a dubious impeachment process. So their promises to address Russian speakers' concerns mostly fell on deaf ears. This was in part because increasingly Russia was aiding the anti-government protests by paying people to show up and busing people in from across the border. And so the former Maidan protesters, scared that the protests might be a front for a new Russian invasion, became counter-protesters. So instead of bringing a new dawn, the revolution of dignity at first just brought more street fights. This time with police on the sideline, while liberals and ultranationalists fought paid thugs and pensioner cable news junkies, fighting not over any actual policy, but rather over completely hypothetical ones.
And the Western media was generally happy to repeat Russia's story about this being a spontaneous, natural, ethnic conflict inside Ukraine.
This area that we've been talking about so much, as the general pointed out, they don't really need to go into this area because it's so heavily Russian anyway. It's a problem for Western Ukraine. The Russians don't have to go in.
Namely because that's how it worked in the Balkans, and that was the last time the Western media paid any serious attention to Eastern Europe. Why change paradigms now?
In other words, mainland Ukraine looked like a juicy target. But this was not enough to spiral into a civil war, so Russia realized Ukraine was going to need another push.
And for the purposes of plausible deniability, they would have to outsource it to a quasi-state actor. So a plan was hatched. Russia organized what was once known in 19th century America as a filibuster, picking volunteers from the Crimean invasion force who were willing to sneak into Donetsk without any government proviso. But what kind of person would
Oh, and by the way, Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk, it's like part of one movement by Russia, one move by Russia. It wasn't like a separate thing. It was like part of the same thing.
Volunteer to lead this kind of unit? Igor Strelkov-Girkin was a GRU colonel who had volunteered in Transnistria, fought with the Bosnian Serbs in Visegrad, did wet work in both Chechen wars, and fought in the invasion of Georgia.
Damn, it's fucking incredible that he survived for so long, damn.
A big supporter of the movement to reinstate the Tsar and turn Russia back into an absolute monarchy that would rule over all the territory of the former Soviet Union, he got a job as a security official for the billionaire funder of the Russian monarchist movement. It was that billionaire who helped finance his mission to take over Ukraine. Girkin is also an avid war memorabilia collector and historical reenactor for the Russian Civil War. On the white side, of course. Much of what we know about the 2014 invasion of Ukraine comes from his decision to live vlog it on a web forum for enthusiasts of military antiques. The plan he hatched was elegant, if not exactly simple. The trained special forces would launch a pre-dawn raid on important targets in the cities of the Donbass. They would shoot it out with whoever was guarding the building, either kick out the defenders or hold them hostage, and then invite local compradors who would pretend that they had taken over the building all by themselves, just in time for the journalist to show up a few hours later in the morning. After a few days of chaos caused by the takeovers, during which everyone in eastern Ukraine would go over to Russia's side, it was assumed, Russia could then send in its army and bloodlessly annex the south and east. Other less organized local groups also captured individual buildings in the big cities like Donetsk and Mariupol.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at this doesn't look like a real like military taking over, and that's exactly how it's supposed to look like, right? And man, some of the videos you see from 2022 doesn't even fucking look, because Russian military is so pathetic, it doesn't even look like fucking military, okay? It looks like some fucking junta.
But since they weren't well armed, they were mostly just
you see some fucking Russian military in sneakers and fucking muddy trenches. So
ignored, and life continued as normal while everyone waited for some kind of negotiated solution. Girkin, on the other hand, had captured an entire town, a more remote town in the west called Slavyansk. This wouldn't be an important distinction if Russia had just invaded, but instead the Russian army just massed at the border and waited. And waited. The Ukrainian army waited too, both because they were barely functioning and because they were worried a crack.
That's true. Our military at the time was absolutely in horrible condition because we had a fucking president who would, for 8 years, who would, Yanukovych, 8 years Yanukovych, who was just fucking stealing everything.
Down would provoke a Russian invasion. This created a problem for Slavyansk, because the town was now under the control of a company of men with no authorization, no experience in governance, no preparation, and no real organization. In other words, Slavyansk had been put under martial law by a military with no chain of command. Or if you prefer...
Бо у нас СБУ все розйобане було, там було багато шпигунів, багато... Ну, після Януковича, що там могло бути нормально, розумієш? Там половина працювала на росню. Це зараз багато чого змінилось. Але... І теж до війни у нас теж дохуя людей. Це вони там багато переключились, 100%, коли війна почалась, бо вони не очікували такої пізди, блядь.
One of the first things Girkin did was put in place a people's mayor.
They've now appointed their own mayor, Vyacheslav Ponomaryov, a former soldier in the Soviet army. The town's elected mayor hasn't been seen in public since Friday.
Yeah, by the way, all the appointed officials, all the commanders, officers, they're all Russian. Makes
The real
sense.
mayor had been locked in the basement. The first order of the people's mayor, the pogrom against the local Roma population.
Они в масках были, человек 15, а у них
с автоматом. У кого автомат, у кого пистолет. Начали простреливать. Ну, страх нагонять. Золото, деньги просили.
Then he put out a warning telling people to report any suspicious.
Ну, я не сказав би, що це із-за СБУ. Це із-за... ну... Як це українською? Із-за зрадників.
Activity
Ну,
like
не вся ж структура.
speaking Ukrainian. People started disappearing at checkpoints, including journalists and international observers. Some, like the journalist, eventually got released. Others, like an opposition city councilor, were discovered in the local river, disemboweled and bearing signs of torture. This outraged Western Ukraine, but no one in the occupied cities heard about it. The first thing the Russians did in every place they took over was to go after the TV antennas. And so a sort of photon curtain fell between the East and the West, each side living in different realities created by different television diets. So when Ukraine sent in troops, people on the Ukrainian side saw the Russians as having escalated first, and people in the occupied territory saw the Ukrainians as escalating first. And that difference in perception would become increasingly important. The Russian incursion in the east didn't interrupt the street fighting in western Ukraine, and in Odessa, these clashes escalated to a gun battle that killed 6 pro-Ukraine protesters. The pro-Ukraine side retaliated by marching to the pro-Russian camp to burn it down. The pro-Russian side barricaded themselves into the building next door, and the two groups began shooting and throwing Molotov cocktails at each other. The resulting fire killed 42 people. The fire had been a genuine freak accident. A small fire on the front door barricade spread to the main hallway, where, unbeknownst to almost everyone, there was a generator with a full fuel tank. When that tank caught fire, it formed a massive fireball that instantly killed the 40 or so people on the stairs above. But no one knew any of that at the time, so the Russian media had a field day.
Women and children hid in the trade union's building. First, the armed men set fire to tents, then started throwing Molotov cocktails and grenades at the building. We heard shots fired, saw thick smoke.
There were about 50 of us on the roof, men and women. The right sector was blocking the streets. We looked down at what was happening around us and thought they wouldn't let us out alive. People from other floors were brought down, and the extremists attacked them like a pack of wolves.
At the same time, there were shots from behind the backs of the security forces. Someone was firing a machine gun. We have the empty shells to prove it.
It's all about resources. The oligarchs are behind the scenes, and the fascists are on the front line, and they're just trying to destabilize it and take over resources. We know who's all behind this, and it's the Mossad and the CIA and the British MI6.
Mossad, CIA.
So while in western Ukraine, the shock of the fire calmed things down, as everyone took it as a sign they needed to de-escalate, in the east the fire was used to convince a large sector of the population that the conflict was existential. So Ukraine turned its attention to the coming presidential election.
What about Masons, guys? And what about the guy that sponsors all the democratic movements? Fucking Soros. It was him, I'm sure.
On May 25th, and the separatists began a massive recruitment drive. And not just locals. The neo-Nazi party Russian National Unity formed a legion, the National Bolshevik Party formed a militia, a Chechen militia called the Vostok Battalion was sent.
Well, is that really the best flag colors and design that you can use for your movement?
Bolshevik.
Like, is that really... Do you, like, really look at that and like, yeah, that looks alright?
Party formed a militia. A Chechen militia called the Vostok Battalion was sent, and even people from the West sucked in by Russian media joined in. Left-wing Spaniards joined and formed an anti-fascist battalion, where they fought side by side with American and Swedish neo-Nazis. People calling themselves the Don Cossacks, people calling themselves the Russian Orthodox Army, and an Orthodox Christian Stalinist biker gang called the Night.
Oh, this was fucking hilarious.
All joined the fight. In May, Ukraine elected a new president, Petro Poroshenko. Now, with more legitimacy, the Ukrainian government felt confident enough to try and take back the east by force. But since the separatists had an unlimited supply of captured anti-tank missiles and captured anti-air missiles, the battle would be slow. And
was that a Mage 17?
Heavy on artillery. And fought mostly by volunteers with a few weeks, if any, military training. Volunteers that would later consequently include neo-Nazis. But Ukraine had air power, and while the separatists were occasionally refreshed with more volunteers from Russia, the wave of local volunteers swept up by pro-Russia sentiment never materialized. Girkin couldn't hold on to Slavyansk, and so he delivered an ultimatum to the Kremlin. Send help. Real help as in an army, or everything
Girkin has been saying that ever since.
Would fail. But Moscow
Even now, Girkin is like, are you gonna start this for real or what?
was silent. So Girkin took his troops and left.
Дело в том, что блокада Славянска не была полной, и по проселочным дорогам еще можно было выйти. Другое дело, что эти дороги тоже простреливались артиллерией. Точные наши потери при исходе из Славянска уточнены.
Militant groups started fighting each other before Ukraine military unified. We had volunteers forming military groups like Azov, like Right Sector. Think about that video that we saw: pro-Ukraine, pro-Maidan people and anti-Maidan people fighting. It's the same, but with weapons now. Except, because our military was not. We had 5,000 people in the military. So it was pretty much the only reason Russians didn't go further is because of patriots. Patriots in our country that decided to take weapons, train, and then go protect the country.
The fall of Slavyansk marked the end of the...
Hey, I don't like when people say it like this. Ukraine pre-2014 had Poroshenko, okay? I'm sorry, not Poroshenko. It had fucking Yanukovych. We had Yanukovych for 8 years. Motherfucker was stealing money and destroying our military. It was a successful campaign by Russia.
honeymoon for the Russians, for multiple reasons.
So I would say that Ukraine was pillaged pre-2014. And Poroshenko could have done a better job.
Important was the glimpse it provided of life under Russian occupation. When Girkin left Slavyansk...
If Poroshenko was like Zelensky, it would have been, you know... I don't know if we would have a war right now.
40 or so people were still disappeared. The assumption was they were all just being held somewhere and would eventually be released. And most were, but not all.
Right now, the authorities are digging up a mass grave site that the separatists used for their dead.
Yeah, Poroshenko is a fucking cuck.
Of people that they had actually executed. But right now, they want to get the fresh remains out so that they can be identified and so that they can continue their investigation into what they believe was the execution of 4 Protestants who lived in Slavyansk, were locals, and were killed potentially just so that their cars could be taken.
On top of that, the residents of Slavyansk who had rallied to the rebels in April were now rallying to the government.
людей, даже больше половины, что здесь, они поддерживают их до сих пор. Уже сейчас они все молчат. А когда были бандиты, они были герои. А сейчас вот эта половина людей, это половина этих террористов.
Now everybody's accusing each other of being separatists now that the Ukrainians have come here.
It turned out few people in the town actually cared about the...
It's going to be the same thing in those territories. You will see.
Russian world.
In Donetsk and Luhansk, it's going to be the same thing. Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea.
Or federalization. But rather had just concluded early on that Russia would invade and wanted to be seen supporting the winning side first. On top of that, the whole propaganda line behind the rebellion was that if Ukraine recaptured...
Was Zelensky effective before the war started? He was a very effective leader. The only problem was that there was constantly people who wanted to stop him from doing anything useful. Because we had a lot of pro-Russian fucking sentiment in the government. And we only started getting rid of it after the war. A lot of them just ran away because they knew the war was going to start. So that made it much easier. And then Zelensky, the whole Ukraine consolidated around him. So he had more capabilities of removing corrupt people from the government.
Captured territory, there would be a massacre of Russian speakers. When those didn't materialize, the local population realized the fight maybe wasn't so existential. Finally, Girkin's decision to withdraw from Slavyansk split the Russian ultranationalist movement in half. Girkin, sensing the Kremlin was going to betray him,
yeah, they're traitors,
used the opportunity to humiliate the Kremlin, posting that Russia didn't deliver on all the aid.
Zelensky knew about the invasion. US didn't have intelligence that we didn't possess. We knew about the invasion. We were telling the partners about the invasion months in advance.
Had promised. One half of the ultranationalist movement believed him and blamed the Kremlin. The other
Zelensky wanted peace because he knew that Russians want the war. Zelensky knew that the war is going to happen, so he did everything he could to stop the war from manifesting. But at the same time, he had to, as a president, he couldn't sell out our country. So he wanted to speak with Putin. He wanted to do the trading of the troops. He wanted to talk about the occupied territories, but Putin wouldn't just have it. So Zelensky was like, "Okay, fuck you, bitch."
The other half blamed Girkin for being too cowardly to make a last stand. This division culminated in an internet live stream argument between the ex-neo-Nazi self-proclaimed leader of the Donetsk People's Republic.
Yeah, Russians kept delaying their invasion. They wanted to invade in the fall, and then they were delaying and delaying and delaying.
And one of the far-right...
But we knew even before that.
...neo-Soviet activists who had been bundling military aid. In the course of this argument, they outlined what had been delivered when, and whether it should have been enough to hold the town. And we should pause here, because now would be a good time to note that Russia could still walk away here and leave with everything it could want, minus a little embarrassment. All they'd have to do is order their agents home and claim they had never been involved to begin with. Instead, they escalated. Again.
Not every video can be verified, but U.S. officials say that half a dozen times over the past 2 weeks, Russia has fired barrages from its own territory into Ukraine. Shelling, which Russian soldiers have been bragging about on the internet, lasts about a half hour and appears to be aimed at Ukrainian military units fighting the separatist rebels.
Starting on July 11th, the Russian army launched a surprise artillery attack on Ukrainian bases from the Russian side of the border, killing dozens. When that didn't turn the tide, they gave the
we will bomb Iran for 8 centuries.
Rebels a more advanced anti-air system.
We just introduced sanctions for 50 years for Iran. Based.
And you probably remember this part of the story.
Hours after the plane crashed, the wreckage was still smoldering in this dark and remote wheat field in eastern Ukraine. An area controlled by armed separatist fighters, an area that has seen intense fighting the last week. This amateur video shows the moment flight MH17 came down.
This is a location where one of the bodies of the victims fell through into the home of a resident of this small town.
The Russians had now killed more civilians in a single shot than Ukraine had in the entire war up to this point. And it was only this that brought the hammer down from the West. Obama had been responding to the annexation of Crimea
Obama. Weak.
With mostly symbolic personal sanctions. Now the EU and America were sanctioning major Russian companies. So Russia, now in for a penny, in for a pound, decided to launch a real invasion of Ukraine. About 4,000 to 5,000 soldiers with tanks and IFVs simply rolled into Ukraine, encircled a large chunk of Ukrainian forces, agreed to let them retreat through a humanitarian corridor, then changed their minds and killed everyone inside the pocket with artillery.
That's true. That was horrible. We'll never forget all that shit.
But a strange thing happened in the face of this massive escalation. No one noticed. Russia had denied they had invaded, and everyone just decided to believe them. When Ukraine and the State Department
Big mistake.
Provided satellite imagery showing Russian tank companies operating in Ukraine, maybe it made sense to ignore it and say, well, America lied about Iraq, but it wasn't just the Pentagon presenting evidence for long. Russian soldiers posted on Facebook about being sent, and took selfies while on mission. There were also multiple Russian tankers taken prisoner by Ukraine, who were also saying in interviews that they had been...
Dude, our boys are now fucking mowing these Russians down. It's hell on earth for them. They're fucking dying by thousands. And I remember there's a lot of videos from 2014 with killed Ukrainians, our soldiers, our guys that were volunteers trying to protect the country. These fucking pigs were just sharing. There's also videos and pictures of like decapitated Ukrainian defenders from back from 2014, and now these pigs get slaughtered.
Ordered into the country. The Kremlin said that those Russians fighting in their government-issued kit were just volunteers on their summer break, and the tank crews had simply...
By the way, in Russian military, it's against the rules to, like, you can't be part of active military and just be on fucking break and go to war at another country. It's like literally against their rules. So it's impossible.
Simply gotten lost and
obviously it's degenerate to begin with.
Accidentally driven 50 miles into a war zone. And amazingly, America's pro-war industrial military complex, consent manufacturing, imperialist press just decided to take Russia at its word. And that's still how they cover it. As far as I can tell, the only American publication that dropped the word allegedly when talking about Russian involvement in Ukraine is Vox. There was, however, one group of people who believed Ukraine. Russians.
В составе там десантно-штурмовой бригады Ульяновской. В каком-то месте, он говорит, они попали в засаду, противотанковый миномет. А при попадании в ногу он, естественно, просто сносит напрочь. И здоровый мальчик стал без ноги.
Oh, a healthy young lad was turned to cripple. Oh, maybe don't invade a fucking country, you fucking piece of shit.
Regular Russian soldiers fighting in Ukraine meant
fucking
Russian
cunt. Dead!
Dying. Not volunteers, but professionals under orders, leaving behind bewildered parents and widows.
Die!
Widows entitled to monetary benefits. But acknowledging these deaths would mean refuting the premise of
into the hell you go.
Namely, that this is all supposed to be
fucking
a civil...
cunt. Oh, you should be a good father. Go, take revenge. Die too, fuck you.
Russia probably only thought a handful of people would die, and it would be...
Your family tree ends here, motherfucker.
Easy enough to hush it up, but more than 100 died in just the first month. The Kremlin PR machine is powerful enough to spin away any Russian atrocity against Ukrainians, and it could certainly invent fictional Ukrainian atrocities. But what it couldn't do was spin away its own mistreatment of patriotic, duty-bound Russian soldiers and their families, especially when the Kremlin was increasingly relying on ultranationalists as its support base. For the Kremlin, the way out of this paradox was further radicalization. Independent media was shut down, and official media became more unhinged. NGOs for war widows were shut down. Government began rewriting history.
Boris Nemtsov was murdered.
Russia was beginning its lurch from a hybrid regime to a totalitarian one.
А в России все думают в первую очередь о государстве, о единстве русского народа и о том, что Россия окружена империализмом, который их вот-вот раздавит. Ну, как знаете, сейчас страна расколота. Большая часть патриотов и малая часть здравомыслящих людей.
But none of this...
Oh, you understood things only after your kid got fucking killed? Oh, that's how we should change minds of Russians? Okay, noted.
It would help if soldiers kept coming home in body bags. So Russia had to negotiate. And Ukraine had to negotiate because it was defenseless and on its own.
I remember
America
this.
wasn't sending military aid. So Russia agreed to pull its troops out of the country if, in exchange, Russia would give the East more autonomy. And both sides were to pull their artillery away from the front line. And let's stop again, because this was Russia's third off-ramp. It now had a buffer state in the occupied territories, plus everything it had before. And it had thoroughly shown Ukraine who was boss.
And now it's time to start militarizing, growing your own military, and try and take over everything else.
It demonstrated that America was not going to save them. But instead of taking that off-ramp...
Yeah, this was crazy. Our dudes held the airport for like 8 months or some shit.
Russia launched a new offensive, this time against the Donetsk airport, immediately after signing the ceasefire agreement. And Russia refused to remove its troops on the basis that there had never been any Russian soldiers in Ukraine, so they didn't have to do anything. But Russia still couldn't take any big risk with its own soldiers. So instead it gave the rebels lots and lots of heavy rocket artillery and told them to have at it. The rebels fired this artillery from dense residential neighborhoods, starting an artillery war that destroyed all the towns adjacent to the airport. And after a grueling 3-month fight, in which the rebels were finally able to capture the airport by demolishing it and burying the...
It was longer than that, no?
...defenders alive, the entire process of peace negotiation, agreement violation, brutal artillery war, and Russian victory happened a second time.
Oh, Debaltseve.
A third attempt to take Mariupol was opened a second time. A third attempt to take Mariupol was also launched, but was aborted in favor of a random rocket attack on the city center.
Chaos struck in a matter of minutes, shattering the calm of a wintry Saturday morning in Mariupol. Out of nowhere, rockets slammed into residential neighborhoods, markets, even schools. Bodies lay strewn on the streets.
This massacre, which killed 31 people in one volley, turned the city against the rebels pretty much permanently, and made heroes of the volunteer battalion assigned to defend Mariupol, the now internationally famous Azov Battalion. And finally, it seemed like with 12,000 people dead, Russia would finally take off-ramp number 5. And they did, sort of.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Until 2022. And we'll pause here one last time, because it's worth noting that Russia did not win anything of material value in this war. The territory in question is economically crippled, and Ukraine was already ineligible to join NATO. And the war made Ukraine both more militarized and more anti-Russia. But they did win, and win in a way that would be consequential for the world, because Russia accomplished something in Ukraine that should have been impossible. It invaded and brutalized a neighbor and came out with a better reputation than it had going in. Half the West was more sympathetic to Russia than to Ukraine, let alone the rest of the world. Russia had invaded a country in broad daylight, and most of the world was convinced that it hadn't happened. Or if it had, it was somehow Ukraine's fault. Because
that was a weak reply to what happened in 2014 led to the events of 2022.
They were Nazis or something. And it's worth marveling at the scope of this accomplishment. Imagine fighting a war against a country so good at gaslighting that half the world is convinced you were at risk of committing genocide against speakers of a language that you speak. And so that begs the question, how did they do this? There are some mundane reasons. For one, Russia's attack on Ukraine happened the same time as the rise of ISIS. The month the war heated up in Slavyansk was the month ISIS conquered Mosul. And the week Russia invaded for real was the same week ISIS released the tape of James Foley being beheaded. Also, there wasn't really much effort by...
It doesn't matter, we won't go limp dick, and now we're a force to be reckoned with.
...by the West to push back, since both Europe and the White House were convinced this was a situation that needed to be de-escalated rather than a case of Russia acting opportunistically. Really, they just wanted it to go away as fast as possible. And there was also Russia's tactical approach, which was dubbed hybrid warfare in the West and became the subject of much discussion in the Pentagon. Hybrid warfare is the idea of a war that combines regular war, terrorism, cyber war, propaganda, and other stuff. Russia's war on Ukraine certainly involved terrorism. They bombed dozens of civilian targets in western Ukraine at the same time as the regular war, and that bombing campaign later expanded to NATO territory. And it certainly involved cyber war. Russia brought down the power grid, and countless institutions got hacked. But the effect of both was
Yeah, like 70% of Spetsnaz, if not more, 90% of their fucking paratroopers got fucking nuked. Russia's over.
Marginal at best on the outcome. I suspect the real magic behind Russia's information war was not that it really succeeded in hiding Russian crimes, but how it distorted time. By broadening the gap between when something happened and when the Western media could find...
Yeah, just like confuse people. Confuse people the fuck out and, you know.
...finally be forced to report it had happened, sequences of events could be presented out of order. Russia could act aggressively, trigger Ukrainian retaliation, present that retaliation as if it were unprovoked.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point he brings up. The timeline of things happening.
And then a week later, when Russia's initial act of aggression was reported, Russia could just present it as retaliation for what the Ukrainians had done first. It didn't matter at that point what had actually occurred first, because no one in the West was paying enough attention.
It was clever.
So an invasion of Crimea that started on February 24th could be presented as retaliation for the formation of a fascist junta that hadn't been appointed to government until February 27th. And so Russia could fire artillery from dense residential neighborhoods and then call it an atrocity when
it's literally no you.
When the Ukrainians fired back. and Russia could point the finger at Ukraine for not following the Minsk agreements after it launched 3 massive bloody offensives immediately after signing the Minsk agreement. And the fucking Gravel Institute can present a war in 2014
Oh, dude, that fucking video. Holy shit.
as having been provoked by a law.
Eastern Ukrainians were horrified at what they saw as a far-right seizure of power.
Let's put a woman who is part of the marginalized group as a host of the video to get sympathy points while spreading some fucking degenerate bullshit.
With veneration of Bandera and
By the way, who's not a Nazi.
elimination of equal recognition for languages like Russian.
You're living in Ukraine, and people who work in Ukrainian shops, in Ukrainian banks should speak Ukrainian. Just like Russian people speak Russian in Russia.
Service industry workers have since January been obliged to talk to customers in Ukrainian.
Yeah, you're just being obliged to talk to customers.
Unless clients specifically ask to switch.
That wasn't passed until 2019. And this, of course, had a multiplying effect on populists, because the mainstream media coverage, which was already hopelessly biased in favor of Russia, was assumed by anti-establishment.
Also, it was a lot of it was like a populist thing at first. I remember having billboards and posters from candidates that wanted to be presidents, saying that fuck Russia, let's go like full Ukraine and forbid Russian language completely, somewhere more, somewhere less, and
types to be biased in favor of Ukraine, because
it was like a populist thing at that point. Look, I'm so pro-Ukrainian, vote for me, and then you fucking, who knows what's gonna happen.
That was, at least nominally, the side America had taken. And so populists took even more extreme anti-Ukraine positions to compensate for the pro-Ukraine media bias they were sure they were reading. But I still don't find any of these reasons totally convincing. And of course, none of this explains why Russia, 8 years later, decided to launch a full-scale war in which it had nothing to gain and could not win.
They didn't know that. They thought that they will win.
So, coming up in part...
They thought it's gonna be the same fucking 2014 shit.
3, we'll talk...
And they choked on their own fucking puke.
About what some of the most...
And we decided to piss on their corpse and not let it go. That was a good video. Thanks for linking that. Pretty good summarization. What are the comments there? It is a good video. A lot of effort and only 39,000 views. Packed with misinformation. Okay, most of the comments are good actually. I mean, hats off to Zelensky and his absolutely incredible, perfect campaign, like media campaign, what he did. How he did it, what he did, literally perfect. Perfect, absolutely. To the last minute detail. It was perfect. That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT! Yeah. Damn. Fucking thank God. Jesus. Man, it's scary what could have happened so if not for him, honestly. If not for countless others that stood up. Oh, damn. Is this a moment from the video where he says about the counteroffensive?
Це те, що максимально важливо. Терміни щодо того, як ми будемо рухатись. Будемо. Рішення ухвалені.
He says it's about the terms of our movement, and the terms are agreed upon. Nice. Mihailo Podolyak, an advisor to the head of the president's office, said it's necessary to create 100 to 120 kilometer demilitarization zone on Russian territory in the Ukraine border. Yeah. It's pretty much all the jokes about Belgorod, Bryansk, Kursk, people republics. They're not jokes. But we'll see. If we're gonna be part of NATO, I think it's going to be my Twitter just doesn't load. I don't know what the fuck this is. It just doesn't load for me. Maybe like... Okay. What do school children and students in your countries dream about? In Russia, due to propaganda, fuck you. Many young people dream of being at war to go kill, torture, and rob people in another country. Generations of Russians have already grown up with completely distorted moral values. The video is a flash mob. We stand up, the symbol of which are handshakes and gesture of unity and solidarity of two generations of winners and support for the war. Thousands of young Russians participate in it. Emotes are not working? I guess nothing working, man. Nothing works. I am done. I don't care. Don't they get paid? Some of them don't, I'm sure. Some of them do. I don't know what the fuck is happening with my fucking shit. It's not working anyway. I'm done. All right, boys. It's gonna be it for today. All right. It's gonna be it. 3-hour stream. Easy clap. See you tomorrow, boys. Tune in every day. Stream every day. Okay. No. The Twitter just started working. I stream every day. Join my Discord. Okay, it's good. Support the stream too. Support my stream, okay? That's important. Subscribe to my Patreon. That's one of the best ways to support me. Or you can subscribe to my, or you can just use a credit card and PayPal and stuff like that. Yeah, and see you tomorrow.